how are you all? So I'm back again. This is Mona Lisa's talk show, and you all know me. I'm Mona Lisa Joshi. I'm the founder, director, and publisher of a contemporary publishing house called Chrysanthemum Chronicles. And today I have another interesting guest with me, Ekta Kumar, who is an artist, author, speaker, and she wears many hats. So we are going to talk to her and know a lot about her through her mouth only. So let's quickly welcome. Hi Ekta, welcome to my talk show.
Hi, Mona Lisa. I'm very glad to be here.
The pleasure is all mine, and actually, I'll be very candid. I have no script ready like I do with most of my guests I've done in my previous episodes. So it's going to be totally impromptu because you've made me you're so familiar with yourself through the conversations we had. So I'm really looking forward to talk to you.
Actually, I'm glad because I think scripted kind of conversations get very predictable and boring. So I'm looking forward as well. You can take it wherever you like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's begin with the first thing that comes to my mind, that how would you define yourself as an artist, as a writer, as an author, and also as Ekta Kumar? Who is Ekta Kumar? Let's
Oh my
know you
God, Mona
better.
Lisa, you're starting with a question that I don't want to answer because this is something I've often felt the minute we describe ourselves as a particular, as per the work that we do or what we enjoy, or it immediately feels very, very restrictive. If I say this is who I am, but that is not just me, right? There is just so much more to us as individuals. So you're starting with a question. I'm going to say ideally, no comment. Don't make me define myself. I'm just hoping to discover parts of me as I go along. I think as I grow older, I realize that I keep changing as well, but some things are constant. There are things you enjoy, there are things that you want to spend time doing. And I think you'd agree, the older that we get, time becomes really precious. So I think I want to define it as the hours that I spend. How do I spend those hours? I think that would be a nice way.
So, how did your journey as an artist start? I mean, what kind of modalities do you use? Because I was going through your profile and I could not find a single of your art pieces. So, how do you do
Right.
that? What is the modality that you use? And have you been exhibiting them somewhere?
So, yes, in the sense I have exhibited, I've been painting, since I was a child. It is a way for me to express myself. Um, my paintings got selected to be shown at the Pune Biennale a couple of years ago, and that was my first. And it was the first time I didn't even apply. There was someone who saw it and said, "You must try." And he kind of put it forward for me, and it got taken. And that was the first time I felt that maybe I should exhibit. Having said that, and then of course at the Salarjung Museum in Hyderabad as well. But having said that, painting for me has always been one form that, if I'm absolutely candidly honest, I don't know how to objectively look at my work. So I'm always a little hesitant about putting it there, and it just always feels so personal. That's one reason. And the second is, I think all my work is always work in progress. I keep going back to it and adding to it and taking out from it. And so you're right. I haven't really shared so much on social media. Social media itself for me is fairly new. It's only been about 2 years. So I think as a person, I'm getting used to also sharing what I do. So yes, hopefully in the next year or so, you'd see a lot more. But currently, you're right. I mean, I haven't done enough. Having said that, I'm in my head. I was just thinking yesterday. I put a picture of what I was cooking in the night, and I was like, God, Ekta, if you can do that, you should be able to put your art, what you're painting as well. But yes, maybe I should, Mona Lisa. I haven't, in a structured way. I haven't. It's always been personal.
Wonderful. Okay, so talking about cooking, you said that you were just thinking about putting a picture. So, are you someone who loves to cook, or it's just like an hobby?
No, no, I cook every day and I love it. And, my family, it's been like a sore point all throughout. When I say family, I mean my parents, because I've been cooking, since I was a child, actually. I love the idea of making food and eating it. And when I had my own family and, I have two boys, and just cooking a meal, I think for those who you love just is a way of also sharing what you feel and eating together. All of it is so important. So yeah, I love it. I do it every day. Of course, I have people to help me. I mean, I don't do all of it, but I do cook every day. It's much to
You
how
and
can I
I
say?
are
Tell me.
Yeah, you and I are quite similar in many ways. Even I love to cook, and recently I've also started taken up painting. So it's like after 20 years, some 20 odd years that I've started, and I don't know how it's coming, but yeah, I have also taken up this passion again. So I'm finding quite so many things similar. So I'm going to really enjoy to talk more. Okay, and you do yoga as sorry, you do yoga as well. So did you start at a very early age, or it's just something that you have found recently and you're doing it?
No, no, I started when I got pregnant, actually. That was my first.
Okay.
So my first couple of sessions was
Okay.
just like pregnancy related yogas, which is not much movement. It's very easy. You just sit and, move a little bit. But, um,
Okay.
but I really enjoyed my 9 months. I mean, I keep saying this. I can go back to it and have babies again and again and again because I think yoga made it really easy for me. And I felt wonderful even like a day before I delivered, I was swimming 16 lengths and feeling fit and feeling sexy. As women do when you're. So I think that was my discovery of yoga, and after which I've just continued. Although again, it's at a very. I'm not some super. I don't do these super cool, convoluted kind of asanas and stuff. It's very basic. But I think that works for me. I like it. I love it. Actually, I love it. That hour of my day, I love.
Okay. So
What about you? Do you
how would
do
you
do
define
you
it? Like
I was wondering you're saying
I
so many things
about
in
yoga.
comments. I was wondering one by one you're picking them. Do you like yoga as well?
No, I don't do yoga, but yeah, I do a lot of walking, and I
Yeah.
still have to shed a lot of weight. But yeah, I do walks, so I love my walking. In the evening, I do it regularly.
But it's not just for weight, right, Mona Lisa? I mean, you're a writer. I think when we walk is when all the ideas come as well, right? It's literally for me as well. It is that one time when you're alone with yourself and there's nobody to distract you or to call you or it's beyond just physicality a little bit. It's more, right?
Hmm. So let's talk poetry a bit. And what kind of poems inspire you? Have you read some of the greatest poets, the classic ones? Does anyone inspire you, or it's all your authentic style that you believe in writing in?
With poetry, I think so much of it is from the heart, and so much of it. So yes, I mean, I think all of us find poetry in our lives at a stage when either I think initially it's when you're growing up and you're teenagers, and suddenly the world is opening up in so many exciting ways, and poetry is a wonderful way of keeping up, with all those emotions and all of that. It kind of brings a little coherence to all that chaos around you. So I think when you're very young, that's what you like about poetry. You read it and say, "Oh my God, someone else feels like this." As you grow older, I think we tend to go back to it. In moments of doubt and fear and anger and grief and all of that is when, at least with me, it tends to draw me then. um, yes, so I think it is one of those underlying things that's always been around, that you keep going back to as a source of nourishment, as a source of sustenance. That is what art is, right? It is a source of sustenance. It's not a luxury. It's not something you dabble in, or it's not. It becomes an intrinsic way of life, of living. For you as well, Mona
Right.
Lisa. You're right. How
Yeah,
long
I
have
mean,
you been
I
writing?
I started as a poet only. I started writing few poems because earlier I was doing my master's in literature, so that only inspired me to write. And then I started writing poetry, and then it turned me to a short story writer, and then a novelist, and again back to poetry, because I feel
Well,
poetry is something that I keep going back to. That is something I feel I'm more expressive with.
yeah.
So you kind of, yes, I like poetry.
And you're lucky you said you did
And
your master's in literature.
yeah,
I look at
yeah, I
people
was
like you
about
and
to
say,
come to
"Oh, what
this.
lovely lives you've had," to be able to pursue uh, to study literature. I mean, I studied accounts.
Yeah, I was just about to come to that point that you have studied into journalism and then mass comm, I guess.
No, I
So
did
how
not.
did
I didn't study journalism or mass comm at all. That was
okay, it
something I
was
ventured into much later.
okay, okay. So that's why I was about to ask you that how did you come to poetry? How did poetry find you?
No, poetry
Yeah, but
happened when
again,
I was a
yeah,
child. Journalism is a story. I was actually my background was different. It's business related and finance related. So I was actually hired by Arnab Goswami to kind of as a part of the startup team that helped set up Times Now. And in that process, I realized I was drawn to news and the editorial side of things. So journalism happened by default, just right time, right place. And so he said, "Why don't you just try being on air?" And I kind of moved editorially moved to being a TV anchor, and that's how journalism happened. I never really had a chance to study it. Um, to be really honest, I don't regret that. Because I think you'll work and learn best when you're in a live news environment. You're thrown in front of the television and there's things happening around you. You learn much faster, I'm guessing. Not taking away from the mass comm course. I mean, I don't know enough about it. But I do feel a sense of regret about not doing arts and not being able to study arts at all. If I had to go back, I think, and choose, I would choose to study, I don't know, history and literature and all the other philosophy and all the other. Um, I'm trying to think of an adjective. All the other more interesting or deeper kind of subjects. Again, I don't
okay.
want
So
to take
I'll
away.
tell you one. Okay. I'll tell you one thing here. I don't know whether you would believe it or not, but I was having this conversation in my one of the previous episodes. She's a healer and she does past life therapy and regression and also uh, hypnotizing, and also she takes people to different births they've had and also the future birth they might have. So she was saying that there's a parallel universe, and in one birth you might have done literature. That's why that love keeps coming to you in this birth, that it happens. So I don't know whether you would believe it or not, but perhaps in one of your births you might have done literature.
Yeah, that sounds like a very interesting concept, but I'd rather, I'm not, but I'm saying, but this birth is in my hand. And this is something I figured a few
Right.
years back that this life is what is in my hand. So I should move towards what I want to do and what I enjoy doing. As a chartered accountant, and you're you're very young when you take those calls in life, and you take them for different reasons. With time, when you realize that if it's not working for you, I think it's really important to be able to take matters in your own hand in this life and make the
Right.
switch whenever the time is right. So I'm not sure about the past life, but this life, I'd like to try and go back. I don't know, Mona Lisa, if we ever chat a few years later, ask me, did you study? And hopefully I'd go to some university and do some course.
But you never know, you might again start again. There's no age, because age is just a number as people believe. So
Yes.
just keep it coming. I believe in that.
Yes. Yes.
And so let's talk about your book, Box of Lies. So I was just noticing the chapters that you have sent me, and you have started all those with one, or like four, five lines, prelude kind of. It's more poetic also. So there are different characters as well. So are these characters all intertwined in one way or other, or they are like different people, and you have created their story? How have you done that?
So structurally, yes, the book moves between, yes, so every chapter is from the point of view of a character, and that's how the story moves forward. The structure can be a little, it kind of moves back and forth in time a little bit as well. And it moves between characters, so you get a sense of the story because of how the characters are placed. But yes, the prelude, there are a few lines to begin every chapter, which is the prelude. And that bit I actually quite uh, those were my favorites actually to write them, because I usually wrote them just before starting to write the chapter. Just I think it was a way at that time I didn't think it would go as a part of the book, but it was my way of also getting into the head of, because it's written in first person mostly. So even if it's a crow, it would be the crow saying it, or if it was Moti Babu, or if it was Rasili, the courtesan, it's what she's thinking and saying before the chapter begins. So it gives you a kind of sneak peek into the minds of the character, I'd like to think. But I did enjoy writing those, yes.
Why the title Box of Lies, and when did this book come to you? And like you felt the inspiration that you need to write this down.
Um, um, that's interesting. I don't know when it came to me. I mean, I always like to tell stories, even as a child. Again, I mean, my brother will tell you. I mean, I've bored him enough with all my, all the tales at bedtime. But Box of Lies started, I think, it didn't start off as Box of Lies. It just started off as an idea, and then I started to put it down. Um, the title actually came fairly late. I thought about it only when I thought of publishing it, to be honest. Initially, it was just little bits that I was just putting together and stringing together. So yeah, I just like the visual imagery of Box of Lies. It's something very, it's visual, and yet it's not, because obviously you can't put lies in a box. And yet it is. I like that whole contradiction and contradictory kind of, and the illusion it makes, to the fact what happens when you open the box, and do they fly out, and do they damage things, and is it better to have lies contained, or do we really want to know the truth? Sometimes we don't want to know the truth. We want to just let them be in a box. So.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so
Do
do
you face
you
that?
have talked about two? Yeah, you're saying something?
No. I was talking, and in my head, I was thinking, as a poet, you must also grapple with this often, right? How much of it should be said, and how much of it should be unsaid. So I was just wondering, do you
Right.
grapple with the same things?
Yeah, absolutely. It happens that, while writing poetry, most of the time it happens because when you're writing a novel, it's a different thing because you have created some fictional characters. But although it's true that none of the fiction is never fiction, there's a part of the writer that always comes out. But when it comes to poetry, you have to be very, somewhere you have to be clandestine. You cannot give out everything.
Yes, yes. And
I
I
mean,
think
I
that is the
believe that.
beauty.
So, exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, so I was just asking that I was noticing while I was reading the blurb and the chapter that you have sent me. So you have created two characters. I think they're the main female protagonists. One is the courtesan Rasili, and then this Bhagwati Sitara Devi. I think she is the wife. So are these
Yes.
two characters somehow intertwined? Are their fates intertwined? And how they're different or in contrast with one another?
I had a great time with Rasili and Sitara both, because they're two women who really don't meet during the book, and yet their lives are intertwined, like you said, because on the face of it is because of a man, but I'd like to think it's a lot more than that. I love writing. I love writing the Rasili bits as well as Sitara, because there was such contrast, And they're women that you'd want to be, they're women you don't want to be, they're women you see around you all the time. Rasili is like, she's a courtesan. The book is set in colonial India, those times. Rasili is a courtesan. She's from the quota. She's not beautiful, but she's incredibly sexy. There are women who are very sure of their bodies. There are women who have a certain confidence that is appealing. The women who are talented and they know it. They're alluring, and they know how to put everything together. And Sitara, on the other hand, is what you'd call a beautiful woman. She's married to a wealthy man, and she is comes from a good family, and supposedly has everything, whatever ticks the boxes. And yet we see women like that around us, at least all the time, right? Who have everything, and yet they are painfully insecure, who are just never sure about themselves, and never. So I like the whole play of contrast between Rasili and Sitara. But what I really also I hope that the reader takes away from the book is also that they were they're very different, but they're also similar in some sense. Their desires are very they're both going after what they really want in different ways. Rasili would just bare her teeth and go out and literally claw and get what she wants. She's ambitious. She is can be vicious. Sitara, on the other hand, is coy and demure, but she'll sulk and she'll throw a tantrum and she'll cry and she'll manipulate and she'll try and get her way. So I like the idea of playing with the contrast between Rasili and Sitara.
And since you've written about a courtesan, so how did the inspiration come? Like, have you been to such, like, during your journalism days, have you seen somebody like that, or have you been to any such place that inspired you? You should write about a courtesan. And also, did you do a lot of research on writing them because you wanted to be their gestures and their demeanors to be absolutely right?
Yes, yes. So the fun part about this book was the research. There are documentaries, there is written material, there are books, films, and I think a large part of the research also came from talking to people. Our grandparents who were closer to those times than, of course, who've seen through some of it, who spoke. I mean, even when we were children, they would tell us about how things were in those days. So yes, a lot of research went into it. However, I must tell you this, Mona Lisa, it was an eye-opening thing for me that during the course of when I was doing my research for the courtesan bit, so one part of the research was how life was back in those days, right? Colonial times, the whole freedom struggle and what happened. And the other part was the lives of courtesans. And you realize that history, and I've spoken about this earlier as well, you realize history has not been very fair in documenting their incredible journeys. I mean, so many of these women were absolutely spectacular. Uh, I keep saying they were proto-feminists for India, and no one told me that when I was growing up. The stereotype of a tawaif, as they are called, or a kotewali has always been this, I don't know, this very beautiful woman who is pining for her lover and drinking alcohol or whatever, singing sad songs. But if you go into studying women of that era who were truly tawaifs, and you realize they were just spectacular women who were incredibly talented, very brave, live life on their own terms. I mean, these were educated women who were writing poetry, who were reading, who could talk, who could, they were masters of their art and craft. I mean, there were women who would sing, and in those days there was no mic, and the strength of their voices, they'd sing the tumri or whatever, and they could be heard like kilometers away. There was someone called Janki Bai Allahabadi, and she would sing Us Zamane Mein, she'd be called, say, for the holy function in the police barracks or whatever. And literally, without a mic, her voice would carry on forever. There were women who were financially independent. In those days, I'm saying, these women were, there were women like Gohar Jan who never repeated her jewelry set, who spent thousands of rupees on her cat getting married. I just like the whole flamboyance of, I'm independent, I'm making money, I'll burn it. What the hell, in those days. There were women who were not beautiful. Janki Bai Allahabadi herself, I mean, she was certainly not what is conventionally called beautiful. She was scarred. And yet it was her talent that gave her so much confidence to stand in front of Maharajas and important people and viceroys and all of that and sing and perform. There were also women who were ambitious. So yes, Rasili was my way of paying homage to all those women. I wanted Rasili to carry that, to be ambitious. Ambition is a word which, when it comes to women, tends to be viewed very negatively. And I love it that Rasili is ambitious. I love it that she was smart. She was intelligent when she realized that the body only lasts for a certain amount of years. You have to move beyond that. And she said, no, then let me move to the radio. And she became a radio star. So, I mean, these are stories. When you say tawaif, this is not what comes to mind. So So yes, this is why I think historical fiction is important as well. You know, because it's through stories we can help keep memories of these absolutely incredible women alive.
So Ekta, as we are talking about, the courtesans that were there in that era, and you've done a lot of research also. So don't you think that like Rasili as a character is somewhat limited in the fictional world you have created? You could have written more. You perhaps you can try your hands in creating biography about all these women, their struggles, and each person gets a great amount of like coverage through your book. So don't you think that would be a good idea? Because somehow fiction restricts the kind of exploration you could have done if you write the true identity, who were these people.
Mona Lisa, like at the beginning, you said you and I are thinking alike. I can't tell you this came to my mind so many times when I was researching the book, saying I should write a nonfiction piece around this. But to be honest, I don't know enough. I just felt I don't think I'd be able to do justice. I'm not sure if I know enough. With fiction, it gives you a little bit of liberty,
Yeah,
history and what you have, those are gaps that you can fill with your imagination and make
right.
it. So, yes, I think you're right. Fiction is the easier option. I did take the easier option, I have to admit.
No, even for me, if it has to be some in like book in the future, because I since I've got married into a Pahari family now, so there was this queen whom I really want to write upon. That's her name is Jia Khan. So she fought with great bravery to the British English people to save her honor. So she drowned herself, but as many times I try to find through books or through my research, I don't get enough information. So I really have this thing that if ever in the future I write on her, it's again going to be a fiction, because that the thing you said, that it gives you the liberty that you
Yes.
can be imaginative.
Yes, and I hope you do end up writing about her because see, it's stories like these. When you Google, if you Google women, whatever heroes, women leaders, or whatever of India, I'm telling you, for years it's the same 10, 20 names that come up. I mean, are you telling me we're like 1.5 billion people, half of which are women, and going back like 100 years, are you telling me we can only come up with 20 names? you
Right.
know there are just so many more untold stories that need to be told. So I hope to see what you're writing about, Zia Khan, did
Jia
you say?
Devi.
Zia
Jia
Devi.
Devi. Yeah.
Zia Devi. I hope to kind of read that at some stage. It is really important. I think this is where literature and stories become important. Because if I were to, numbers you forget, data you forget, history in a textbook can tend to be too factual. Sometimes it doesn't connect. But if you tell stories, people remember, and it's important to remember.
Absolutely. Okay, so I noticed one another important thing that I don't want to forget here because it suddenly came back. So you also did a theatrical reading of your book Box of
Yeah.
Lies. So how did that happen? And it was
Oh, it
really
is.
something interesting I have ever come across, because I haven't seen something like this.
It was super fun. My journey with the book has been humbling and very, very exciting. I didn't. So I did a couple of events across some cities, and I did not want the book to be limited or the book event to be like just like one author reading it. Um, I just thought the book lends itself beautifully to artistic collaborations. And as a person, I'm always looking for a chance to kind of mix it up when it comes personally as well, right? I mean, I don't want to, like you mentioned, I don't want to say I'm an artist or a writer or an accountant or whatever, because so for Box of Lies, just because it's set in those days and it lends itself beautifully to music and theater, so much of it is in the Kota. So I actually had one theatrical reading where we had it lends itself very nicely with ghazals, right? Because in those days, that is what in the mehfils they would perform music. And
Yeah.
so we had one session where we had ghazals, and there was another one where I collaborated with a classical tabla player, And that was phenomenal because, again, music was also, so we did a reading over music, we did reading over ghazals, we did reading over at another place over Urdu Shairi. And the idea of the book coming alive through various kind of collaborations like this, for me, I think, was, as a writer, was incredibly exciting, because then it's not just what you write and you tell a story and you send it out. Once you publish it, really, to be honest, Mona Lisa, it goes away from you. You kind of cut off from it. It's out for someone else. But then when someone picks it up, and so for example, when the musician picks it up and plays to what he or she imagines the setting to be, and then you read it, it takes the story forward in some way. So yes, I hope to be doing some more. We're in talks for this year as well to kind of have something else, and yes, it's artistically exciting, and as an individual, I love it.
Yeah, I think it matches with your aura.
Really, I'm
Yeah,
going to
it
take
really.
that as a compliment, whatever that means.
Absolutely, because I by now I have got this idea that you are quite secure in your own, vibe. Like I have interviewed so many people, and most of the people have this, kind of craziness or craving, or this thing that their book has to do well. They have to become this bestseller, and the promotion thing. But the security that I see in you, that comfort zone you are in, it really inspires me, and I am so glad that we met.
I'm glad to. I'm glad to. I think any kind of interaction and conversation is important. Like I mentioned earlier as well, I think all conversations keep our, to use a much cliched phrase, to keep our creative juices flowing. I think as a writer, and especially for me, there have been periods of my life, many years at a time, where there has been a lot of silence. And I have enjoyed that as well. A lot of it was deliberate. But I also am enjoying the phase of interaction and opening up to people, because it allows you to also get a chance to peek into your mind, and through you also think about where I'm headed. So yes, in short, what I'm trying to say, I love the fact that we met as well.
Absolutely. So do you want to read something? Would you like to read some of your poems, maybe, or your?
You know what? You said that, and in my head, I'm like, God, I don't even have my book around me. I'm gonna have to excuse myself, turn the camera off, and go get it. Tell me, what do you want me to read?
Okay,
I
we'll edit
don't.
that part.
You'll have to edit that part. In which case, you want me to get the book, or I have it online somewhere. Should I read it? I
If
ha- what or I don't know. What would you like me to?
if it's there with you online, then perhaps that would be a better option.
Better option? Okay, let
Yeah.
me just figure this out. Damn, I'm so sorry, Mona Lisa. I didn't think of it.
No, because we were having this conversation, we might read
You're right.
something,
You're
so I
right.
thought.
You're right. I mean, I was just focused. I just didn't think of reading. I should. I.
Yeah.
So tell me, what bit would you like me to read?
Maybe the part where you have introduced Rasili. That's quite interesting.
Okay. At the risk of absolutely sounding demented, I
No, it's
don't
your choice. Totally
remember.
your call. If you
So I'll
want
tell
to
you,
read
I'll read
something else.
whatever opens up. Just give me a minute. It's taking
Yeah,
time to load.
absolutely.
And I need to also find your window. Okay, I found you. Um, I did TV for so many years, and this kind of time is unpardonable in TV, because literally every second is so important. I can't, like, I'm feeling so guilty taking all my time looking, and I should have been better prepared. So you said you want me to read a little bit of Rasili?
Yeah.
Okay. I've done that before. this one bit before, so let me not. Shall I do something which is a little new then? Something I haven't done before? Um, okay, how about there is a bit on freedom, because just to set the context, would you be okay if I
Yeah, yeah,
if
absolutely.
I okay. So essentially, just to give you a little bit of context, the book is also set at the time there is um, when India was being partitioned, right? And we've all seen. So I'm going to call out a couple of lines just from those were difficult times for millions of people, and just to give you a little bit of context, let me. So this chapter is called Freedom. A new country brings hope. It rests on the grave of desperate souls clawing through the mud, reaching out for their dreams. Am I Hindu or Muslim? Who cares? When the knife slides in through the soft flesh and slices the bone. When I twist it to the right and push it in. When the desperate cries for help end in a whimper. When terrified eyes begin to glaze over. When I lick the warm blood on my face. Who am I? That was that. Did it change the mood completely? Sorry, we were talking about women and other things, but I just found that bit and I thought, let me call it out.
So it kind of gives the context that you have used the backdrop, the freedom struggle, and the partition.
Yes. We're so fortunate. We live in times which are, I sometimes wonder, in your lifetime, to go through an upheaval or violence, or it must scar you in ways which are unimaginable. Um, even even COVID, what all of us, I mean, that's the most recent collective kind of
Yeah,
trauma that we went through. There's so much material, right? That when you read and you read stories that people share, it makes you wonder. And when it goes back in a couple of years and all of us are dead and gone, I wonder for the generations that come after us, what would they think about it and how would they understand? So when we write about colonial times, I mean, a lot of it is because of what we've read and the stories that we've heard from our grandparents and people alive in those days, and you wonder there must be so much that we are missing, right, that we don't know.
absolutely. You know what? Somewhere my novel is also based near the same era, but I don't use the freedom struggle. I've used the timeline, but it's a story. It's a mysterious thing happening in the book. So the context or the background and the characters are kind of relatable. So while I was reading about Rasili and the other characters, I kind of felt, अरे जिस हमारा तो काफी कुछ मिल रहा है.
Is it? Okay, in which case let me find you a few lines from Rasili. Should I?
Yeah, yeah, please.
One second. God, I'm going to go into again one huge, like, I'm sorry. Um, okay, just it's one line. It's what Rasili says a little older, when she's a little older and she's thinking of moving to radio. Um, Things change as they are meant to. Nothing remains the same. Not the flesh on my hands, nor the smile on his face. That is Rasili.
And Ekta, exactly how much time you took to complete your manuscript?
Oh
Because
God,
the
don't ask me,
characters
Mona
seem
Lisa,
to.
because people have asked me before, and I have no idea what to say because I don't know when to start counting from. Do you start counting from when you had an idea? Do you start counting from when you started to write nonsense? Do you start counting from when it had structure? Don't ask me these questions. It took a long time.
Yeah, because I have taken 10 years. Because my
Wow.
characters have developed over time only. So I kind of felt that sense in your characters as well. So it gave me the
Yes.
idea that you must have taken a good time. And I think it should
Yes.
be. It should be like
Yes.
that until you are satisfied that you are ready. You should not
Yes.
bring your book out.
Yes, one that. Although I must confess, I'm writing again, and for the second one, I'm telling myself I should not indulge myself that much, and just get things out of the way. Just write more, write without going back to it too many times. Just write and let it be. So I don't know. Maybe it turns out to be a really terrible whatever, but I'm hoping the second one is faster. I don't know though. I don't know. What about
Yeah.
you? Are you working on something? What are you up to?
Yeah, right now I'm designing my poetry book that I'm going to release maybe in 2-3 months of time. So
Well,
yeah, I do the designing myself. So right now I'm working on that, and I'll
what are
I'll
the
gift
poems
you one
about?
of the. Huh?
Yes,
Sorry.
well, I look forward to it. And like I said, I'd rather hear you say the poetry. Would you like to call out something?
Uh, should I? Because I think it's
Yes.
your show today, not
No,
mine.
this knew
I'm
you're mine. I thought ours
flexible.
was a conversation. Yes, of course.
Perhaps I could
Why not?
read few lines from the
Yes,
recent. This is the first poem of this year, so I've written again on love. Yeah, because that's my favorite genre, the favorite theme I love to.
all of us. Mona Lisa, all of us.
Yeah, hopelessly romantic people we all are, I guess. So okay. I hope I'm not taking your time, too much of
No,
yours.
there's no such
Because
thing as my time, Mona Lisa. I thought we were just chatting. We should just talk and let it flow the way it's going.
so okay, I'll read few lines because let it be I don't want to give out the entire poem.
No,
Okay,
of
so the
course.
poem is titled A Bed, a Love Story and Thoughts. One bed will float to the other world. It's a whole world on my bed. I want to retire after each hour, each night, alongside you, holding hands. This will be my memory of this world. Moving into another plane, I want things to be same. I'll wait for eons to live one more life with you. Have the same hearth, children, and you this time more of you and your time to walk in the meadows, the woods, lakesides, enjoying the autumn sun. A brown woman again with you, a fair man. How after such storms and droughts, when my bed had drowned, broken into shards, again it came to the surface, bringing me along. I think I'll stop here.
It's beautiful. It's very intense.
Thank you so much. And
You know,
I
it.
I plan to read it in some of the poetry events I've decided to go. So maybe I'll read it there.
You must
And yeah,
send it to me as well. This was very nicely done.
thank you so much.
When
It's
it
sweet of
comes
you
to
because it's a very rare thing that has happened today because I don't read anything or I don't talk about my works. So thank you so much for giving me that honor and
oh,
space.
please, it is your talk show. You can just ask all of us to shut up and do what you want.
No, no, my guests will then run away and they say, "अरे यहाँ नहीं आएंगे."
No one's running anywhere. But that was lovely. I think it goes back to the conversation that I was having. I think when it's two people interacting on in any way and any kind of collaboration where you're sharing, when both are sharing, just
Yeah,
I think is so much more. Um, it's so much richer than just like a one-sided thing. It's impossible to create in isolation. We have to observe and you know see what's
yeah,
happening around us and hear and feel what you feel.
absolutely,
So I should
absolutely.
be thanking you actually.
No, I think this goes both ways. It's the feeling and emotions are likewise today. Okay, I have to ask you one thing. You have written on the cover page of your book, a love story without love. Why is that?
That's such a tacky line. When I started, it's like you said, we're all hopeless romantics. And I think even if we are not, I think if I can take the liberty of saying it for most of us, is the idea of love is kind of consumes most of us, right? Because I think
Absolutely.
it is just so natural for us as human beings to want to connect to one another and understand each other and be a part of each other. And yet, the fact is, we're always also alone, isolated. It's these two contrasting things that are constantly kind of playing tug of war inside us. We're constantly grappling with this. Um, So yes, so when I started off, I wanted it to be a love story because I said I want to write about love and write about all the complications of the heart, and write all about men and men and all of that. But as I began to write it and the story started to take shape, I realized this is actually not about two people. This is about one person at a time.
Right.
And I started to enjoy the fact that the women are selfish and the women are real and the women are single-minded in their own desires to get what they want, and it just became something else. So yes, it's a love story because they're driven by them wanting a man and the idea of being with someone, but you realize with time it shifts into wanting other things and wanting him not for love and for other things, and it kind of and that's how life is also, right? I mean, we start off with the saying it needs to be like, I don't know, we're all brought up thinking it's this perfect world, but actually life is complicated. It's not easy to define and easy to explain and easy to
Yeah.
understand. So I think the book, yeah, so it ended up being this very, I find it quite like cheesy, that line, but it's actually it sums up my journey with the book.
And again, as you have said, that all this is box of lies, as we are also living in that box of lies, because it's a superficial world, but still good people are there. That's why, I've met Ekta.
No, but I think lies are important. And I think if the world had only good people, it'd be like so boring. So
Yeah,
for all its superficiality and all of that, I think it's wonderful that it is like that, if you were to ask
right.
me. Because,
It helps you to discover yourself better, how you want to pursue yourself, I think.
yes, and only when there's conflict are things interesting. There has to be conflict even within us, right? About who am I and which direction am I going and what is right and what is wrong and what are the choices that you're making. Lies are important in our lives as well because it makes you appreciate what is truth, and we hold on to what is truth harder when you know
Hmm.
there's
One,
darkness. So
wonderfully said. So lovely talking to you, Ekta, today, and let's connect more, maybe over poetry someday,
yes,
or
yes.
whenever we can meet. It will be fun
Absolutely.
with
No,
you.
the next has to be poetry, Mona Lisa, like we said. Absolutely.
Absolutely, sure.
And look
Just
forward
let
to
me
it.
know whenever you have written something new or you want to share some of your older works. Maybe we can create an event, and we can also invite few of the other poets, so we can
Right.
have a good time. Because poetry is my first love, of course, and yours also, I feel,
I think for all of us, we're all poets in our own way.
in
Whether
our
we
own.
write or we
Absolutely
don't, I think we're all blessed with a certain rhythm, right?
true.
That is poetry.
And that is the fun part of it, that everybody has a different style, and that gives you, good kind of inspiration as well, that how you can also, change your style, maybe, because I also imbibe a lot. I read something, and then I imbibe into it in my own style, and then it becomes something new.
Has your style changed over
Yeah, I
time?
keep on changing. I don't stick to one style, but earlier I used to write in stanza, and my because I just completed my literature major, so I was writing more into archaic style of writing, like Shakespeare's way of writing, and thy, thou kind of. But it became quite difficult for the readers, so then I changed into free verse and now into contemporary. So I keep on changing.
You're
So I would
talking,
try to
I
go
have no
into all this.
idea. You're talking about technicalities of poetry. I realize I have no idea about style and format and what is the word you use, stanzas and all of that. I just okay. You know what? I'm going to. Can I? I'm going to call out a few lines, and will you tell me what is my style? What is my format? They're just a few lines I wrote. Would you, as an
Yeah,
English lit
please go ahead.
major? Huh? No,
I'm
really.
a novice
Because
when
for
it
me,
comes
it's
to
just
poetry.
lines. I have no
It's
idea about meter, and I have no idea about technicalities of poetry. Would you tell me?
okay. Yeah, I'll try my best.
Um, okay, it's just like three lines, four lines. It goes. It's called forgetting.
Okay.
Um, He surprises me in unexpected places, showing up in the crease of my arm and the sounds of the night, in someone else's face and the lines I write.
That's
That's the end.
beautiful.
That was it.
And it's more metaphorical, and there's symbolism also. You're trying to incorporate some like feelings of your emotions through the emotion through the night element, and things like that. And yeah, of course, metaphorical, and not the meter thing. I won't be able to tell you that, because that's kind of very detailed thing. AB something I've read long back, so not able to
No,
recall
but
it
I'm
back. Yes.
thrilled. I mean, this sounds like it's a poem because, someone like you has said that it is whatever, whatever, whatever metaphor and all of that. And suddenly someone's analyzed it. And I'm like, wow.
No, no, no. I'm
And
just
that
it.
is,
You know what we are all learning. It's a never-ending process, because if somebody who has done like doctors in literature might be writing in a very naive or childish way, and somebody who hasn't done anything in literature might be writing in a very deep, intense way. It's all about the mind and the creativity and the imagination. So I believe in that.
not just that, I feel when you write and, you write with so much passion and feeling and
Exactly.
you write and years pass. And when you look at
You
those lines,
bleed,
they're not
basically.
yours
I
anymore.
feel that you
And
bleed
then,
your heart out when you are writing poetry.
yeah, yes, sometimes, yes.
Yeah. So, Ekta, let's catch up again on poetry,
Yes,
and
yes, absolutely.
it was lovely
And
talking
thank
to you.
you, Mona Lisa. Before you end it, I must thank you as well for that analysis. I think that was my star moment, and for
No, no,
being
no, please don't.
such an easy one.
I'm really, I wouldn't consider myself, someone who is at the position of analyzing. It was
No, no,
something
no.
that
It was
I
just
felt, I shared,
it's
because we are all learners. Somebody better than me might decipher it in a even more better way. So I wouldn't take any credit for
I'm
that. It
not
was
going to
just
take any
something I felt.
compliments for poetry or what is the opposite of compliments or criticism. Poetry is personal. There's no judgment to it. It just felt really cool to have someone else, look at it from a different angle. That's it. With poetry, I think there are no rights and wrongs. There's no such thing as a good
Absolutely.
poem.
There's no rights, no wrongs,
That,
no rules. And
yes,
especially in poetry, rules are meant to be broken. That's why
yes,
many classic poets have broken rules many times. And that's what we
yes,
are doing. We are writing free verse. And okay, so looking forward to talk to you again. Have a
yes.
great day ahead.
You too, Mona Lisa, and thank you so much.
You're
Look forward.
welcome. Absolutely. Bye.
Bye.
So I was talking to Ekta Kumar, and please follow my page, and also this video will be soon out on my YouTube channel. And if you wish, you can pick the book Box of Lies and read it, and maybe if you feel, you can review it as well. Bye all, have a great time.